Morning, afternoon, evening people. So back in the kitchen with Tony and Teddy. I've got a bit of a novelty today. I'm going to cook something I've not tried before. So I'm always looking for new recipe ideas. There's someone I watch on YouTube called Baldy Foodie Guy. He doesn't do cooking or baking, he does food reviews where he'll buy new food from the supermarket and he'll try it out and do a review of it. And what I bought the other day was a minced beef and onion pie, dumpling topped. A dumpling topped minced beef and onion pie from Morrison's, I think. It's a supermarket. And I saw that, I thought, you know what, let's give that a go. So we're going to go making a dumpling topped minced beef and onion pie. I've got some pastry here. So yesterday I did a quiche recipe. We had that for dinner last night. I will link it in the description, that video. I made enough to make 3 pies. So one lot's frozen for a later recipe. One lot was used for the quiche yesterday, and this is what's left. So I'm not going to make pastry in today's video, but if you want to see pastry being made, hit that quiche video, watch that. I've also got multiple pie videos on the channel where I do make pastry from scratch, either by hand or using a stand mixer. So hit the subscribe button, head to the cooking and baking library, with lots of pie videos on there. First thing I'm going to move on to then is making the filling. I've got a couple of onions from over the kitchen garden that have been left in soil harvested yesterday, and these ones are starting to go a bit funny, so they need to be used first. If you want to see us growing these vegetables and stuff, hit subscribe. We're going to be growing a lot of these onions and other vegetables next growing season. This chopping board and this knife, both off Amazon, and this chopping board is surprisingly cheap. I think it was £8, which is about $10. It's really handy because I can chop all my ingredients, keep doing all the cavities on the board, and then just carry the board over to the cooker when I'm ready to start cooking. It's also reversible, so I use this side for vegetables and I use the other side for raw meat, just so we're not getting any cross-contamination. Okay, let's head over to the cooker, start cooking. Okay, the reason we're making the filling first is because we'll leave the filling to cool before we pop it in the pie. So while this is cooling, we'll make the dumplings and the pie casing. So I always put the onions in first with any recipe that I'm doing in the pan. So once those onions are cooking off for a bit, into there we're going to fire in about 500 grams of ground beef, which is just over £1. Obviously remember, always wash your hands after handling raw meat. And then we want to make sure this beef is not all clumped together and just get mixed in with the onion. We're just going to cook that mince now right off until the mince is browned off. Once that mince is browned off, we're going to fire in our stock. I'm going to give you a tip about the stock now. So this stock, this is a mixture of chicken stock and vegetable stock. The reason we're using chicken and vegetable stock and not beef stock in a ground beef and onion pie is it's a milder flavour. It's not going to be a very strong beefy flavour. It's going to add a slightly milder flavour to this pie filling. If you want a really strong beefy flavour, then go ahead and add beef stock instead. In there, just a couple of 100 ml of stock. Then we'll just cook that off for a couple more minutes, allow it to thicken off. Then we'll put that to one side, leave it to cool and move on to with pie casing. Now we're going to move on to putting our pie casing together. Like I say, if you want to see this pastry being made, I'll link the video where I made this pastry in the description. I'll also put it on a card at the end of this video. Now I like to roll my pastry out oversized. This is the size pie we're going for today. We're going to go for really nice, thick, chunky pie casing today. This bit of pastry here is enough to make the pie casing and a lid. However, there's no lid for this pie because the lid will be dumplings. So flour your work surface and also flour the pastry, otherwise it will stick to the rolling pin. So there's our pastry complete, rolled out. What we're going to do now is form our pie casing. What we're going to do is obviously make sure you grease your pie dish, because the last thing you want is it sticking. All we're going to do is just make sure you get right down all those corners. As you can see, we've got a nice thick pastry for this recipe. And all we're going to do is just trim off the excess with our knife. So that is our pie casing complete. If you do roll it out and you've got any holes or cracks, don't be afraid, just patch up with the excess pastry. This won't go to waste. I'll put this in the freezer with the other pastry that I've got frozen. We'll use that for another recipe, a pie recipe, down the line, which will more than likely be on film, so hit that subscribe button. Right, let's clean up this mess. That's better. Okay, so now move on to making the dumpling mix. So for our dumplings, what we're going to use is 150 grams of plain flour and 70 grams of lard or suet. What we're going to do is take the suet out of the fridge, leave it out in a warm spot in the kitchen just to soften up before we start making it up. It's also a good idea just to dice your suet or your lard. This is just my normal straightforward dumpling recipe. So if you want to make dumplings for anything else, like a stew or a casserole or something like that, this dumpling recipe can be used for that too. So we're going to go ahead and make a dumpling mix now. So what you're going to need is half a teaspoon of salt, or 4 grams. Mix that in with the flour, in with our lard or suet. What we're going to do is get your fingers in there and just mix this suet and flour together. What we're going for is this breadcrumby type texture once that suet or lard is all mixed in with the flour. You should have no big chunks of lard left. Then all we're going to do is add a couple of teaspoons of water. So do that a little bit at a time until you get a dough-like consistency. That's all our parts ready. Pie casing, filling, dumpling mix. So first thing then, add our pie filling. Get that distributed evenly. Okay, now I'm at a quandary. Do I make one big dumpling on the top, or do I make 3 dumplings, place them on the top? Now this dumpling mix, if you're looking for a stew or casserole, is enough to make 4 small dumplings or 3 bigger dumplings, or 2 massive dumplings. So I think I'm going to go with 3 dumplings on top of this. Take my dumpling mix, just divide it into 3. Okay, change of plan. I think we're going to have to go with 4 because 3 we're not going to cut it. I expect these dumplings to expand when they're cooked and hopefully cover the whole top of the pie. There's a dumpling topped ground beef and onion pie ready to go in the oven. So I'm going to put that in the oven now for 35 to 40 minutes. We'll check on it every now and then. Once the crust is nice golden brown, The dumplings are starting to crust on the top a little bit. We'll call it ready. We'll pull it out, we'll cut into it and we'll take a look. Okay, so our pie experiment is complete. I'll give you a closer look now. It has been in the oven for about 35 minutes. I was expecting the dumplings to expand a bit, but they haven't. Don't know why. But it still looks good. Smells really good, so we'll cut into that now. So there we have it, dumpling tops, ground beef and onion pie. So there we have it, dumpling topped, ground beef and onion pie. So if you enjoyed that video, give us a thumbs up. If you want to see more cooking videos, hit subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.